morning. Welcome to the worship service at the Parish Church of Christ. We love you. We're glad you are here. Before I get into the lesson, I want to ask of you something this week. The sermon for next Sunday morning will be a lesson in appreciation of our deacons, the heart of the servants. So I would like to ask each of you to write a personal note to each of the four deacons, thanking them for the work that they do for our congregation. Please make it as personal as possible. If you know something specific that they have really helped you out on, I mentioned it. If you want to give them some kind of little gift, that would be great. But we want to appreciate our deacons and the work that they do next Sunday. So please take care of that during the week. Our lesson this morning will be a sermon from one of our favorite songs. This lesson is on As the Deer. As the Deer was written by a man named Martin Nystrom, who is a native of Seattle, Washington. The song was written in 1981, so it's a relatively new song compared to many of the songs in our hymn book. As the Deer. You may recognize that the title of the song comes from Psalm 42. But the song, and I want you to turn to Psalm 42, and we're especially going to come back to it at the end of the lesson, but the song is not the song. Now, the song that Brother Cecil led us in earlier, Unto Thee, O Lord, is in fact a song from a psalm. It is almost word for word, several verses from Psalm 25. But this song, As the Deer, is not that way. It just takes its initial phrase, but its thoughts are filled with phrases from the book of Psalms. It is very much a scriptural song. Now, as we sing this song, and I'll tell you this, it is the favorite song of three people, or at least three that's told me. It's one of Anna's favorite songs, it's one of Eddie Watson's favorite songs, and it's one of Frank Anderson's favorite songs. Now, it didn't come as any surprise when Frank told me that he would like for me to do a lesson on it, because the first 3 years we were here, every month when we had our monthly singing, Frank led this song. Now, I think lately he's not led it every time, but that told me that he loves this song. And so I've asked Frank to lead us in this song, and he's agreed to do that. And Frank's a good song leader. And so he's going to lead us in the song in just a moment. Now, as we sing this song, as I looked at the message of this song, and I meditated over it this last week to work on this lesson, this song does not build its ideas one on another like many songs do. Some songs build in a chronological way maybe, or they build in a thematic way. But this song is a cycle. And it presents the same ideas in several different ways, but it keeps returning to those same ideas. And here are those three ideas, and this is going to be the outline of my lesson this morning. And as we sing this song, I want you to think about how this author, and thank God for songwriters, but this author presents these three ideas through this song. I want you to think about it as we sing it. Number one, how do I feel about God? How do I feel about God? Number two, why do I feel that way about God? Who is God to me? Why do I feel this way about Him? And the third point is, what am I going to do about it? What am I going to do because I feel this way about God because of what He has done for me? So what has God done for me? Or how do I feel about God? Why do I feel that way about God? And the third is, what am I going to do about it? So Frank, if you would, lead us in this song together.
As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after you. You alone are my heart's
In Psalms 42, when we read that psalm, we see, thank you, Frank, appreciate that. We see that the psalm writer is in the desert. He is apparently being run out of Jerusalem, and he's surrounded by his enemies. And he wants to get back into Jerusalem so that he can worship God. And he's at a place where there are a lot of waterfalls. And apparently he sees this deer that is probably being chased, has been chased perhaps by a predator. But the deer comes to the water and is panting and needing to have that sustenance. And the psalm writer says, I desire God that way. As the deer pants for the water, so my soul longs after God. This man is named Chris McCandless. In 1990, Chris McCandless was originally from Virginia, but he was living with his parents in Atlanta, Georgia. He graduated from college, and Chris McCandless decided to leave home. Chris McCandless was one of those individuals that had a restless spirit. He was tired of his family's lifestyle. His family had everything, and he was tired of it. It didn't fulfill a need that he had on the inside. And so he headed out west. He had no clue where he was going, but he just wanted to go. He packed up his Datsun and headed out west. At one point, he wound up in Arizona, and he dug a hole in the sand and buried all of his physical possessions and burned his money. He called himself the super tramp, just traveling around. When he needed money, he would do some odd jobs here and there, make enough money, and then he'd keep going. After a couple of years, the wild frontier of Alaska called. And so he hitchhiked and walked up to Alaska, passing through the Yukon Territory. He wound up finding this abandoned bus that was used by hunters. And he camped out in that bus for 113 days. He lived on what he could find, small game, berries and roots. There was a message left on the wall of this bus. He wrote 2 years he walks, talking about himself. He walks the earth. No phone, no pool, no pets, no cigarettes. Ultimate freedom. And now, after 2 rambling years, comes the final and greatest adventure. The climactic battle to kill the false being within and victoriously conclude the spiritual pilgrimage. 10 days and nights of freight trains and hitchhiking bring him to the great white north. No longer to be poisoned by civilization, he flees and walks alone upon the land and becomes lost in the water. 113 days he stayed in that bus. It came a severe snowstorm and he was not able to get out. Some 3 weeks later, after the date that he left on this message, some hunters found his emaciated body in that bus, having died of starvation. He was longing for something. He was panting after something that was not satisfying. And in fact, right before, or at some point before he passed away, he left an SOS message on the wall of the same bus, crying out for help. You see, he thought he needed to be alone. He thought he could find fulfillment with nobody else around. But come to find out, he needed God. When we look back at this song, As the Deer, he first of all talks about how do I feel about God. And there are 5 things in this song that come back to that one point. How do I feel about God? And I'll just make a brief comment on each one. First of all, he says, my soul longs after God. I want God. The psalmist realized that he needed God in his life. He realized that there were things out there, but they were not satisfying. If man is a spiritual being, and we are, then the ultimate thing that is going to satisfy that spiritual thirst is going to be the spiritual being. Martin Nystrom writes, I long for God. Do you? Do I? Long, thirst, pant after God? Do I long to be in God's presence? Another point he makes about feeling how he feels about God is he says, you alone are my heart's desire. What does your heart desire? My heart desires a Ford Sport Track 4-door with a sunroof that is, yes, Kentucky blue, because it would match our seat. But that's not really what my heart desires. What does your heart desire? Does it desire God? Another, he says, I love you more than anything. More? Jesus says in Matthew chapter 10 and verse 37, if you don't love me more than you do your mom and dad,